Good afternoon, everybody. Russell Jones here at the Stamford Symphony. I think this is our very first town hall, let alone live or virtual. So it's wonderful to see everybody, and more people will join. And before anything happens, I'm going to ask Tony Malone, our operations manager, to just say a few technical words, because I know this is new for a lot of us. So Tony, straight over to you.
Thank you, Russell, and thanks everybody for joining us today. So one note is right now I have everybody except for Russell muted, and that's just so everybody can hear the speaker. But we will get to questions later on in the meeting. And if you raise your hand then, we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. Also, if you have questions as the meeting goes along, you can open the chat window. There should be a button at the bottom of your screen that says chat. Open that and just type your questions in there, and Meredith will type answers to you throughout the meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tony. I hope everybody can hear me, and please use the chat facility for any reason, and certainly let's get those questions coming in. I don't want to talk for very long because this is a conversation, not a talk, and I actually want to check in and see how everybody's doing. I want to hear from you all and how everybody is faring under the current circumstances. Love to know who's got some great tips for being isolated, and I hope everybody is safe and well and doing all the right things as they should be now. I'm joined by members of the staff, members of the orchestra, members of the board are with us, and this invitation went to all our subscribers and donors. So it's wonderful to see so many of you, and more of you I think are coming online in the next few minutes. So before we do anything, I thought Michael Stern has been putting some wonderful things up on the channel. We'll talk about the channel shortly. But Michael's had some great thoughts about how we're coping with this this crisis, and how we're all digging in now to all our reserves of energy and so on. And Michael's put up a number of things on the channel. Hello, Michael, in Greenwich, and how are you doing? How's the family? And say a few words to us, please.
Hi, everyone. I have to say, just right off the bat, I'm a little freaked out that the Queen is right over your right shoulder. So I'll try to keep, I won't work blue today. I'll try to keep it clean for her sake. I am delighted to see all of you. I hope you are all staying safe. I don't know about the merit of anything that I've tried to post or think about or cope with any more than any of you have. We are all in this surreal moment together, and I'm not exactly sure what the best response to any of it is. Also, it's a moving target, right? It's changing hour by hour, certainly day by day. So Russell and I have been talking a lot about what comes next. And I think, and this goes for all of us, it goes for musical organizations and musicians across the country and abroad, everywhere. I think it's going to be interesting to see not only what happens and what is required of us, but how we all react to that. Whether it ends up being really from scratch a new normal, whether it is just, you know, requiring of us some adaptability and flexibility, whether we can go back to business as usual. Those are all questions which are worth asking. My thought is, do we want to go back to business as usual? Because we have an opportunity here to imagine not only what we might have to do on the other end of this, but what we would like to do better, right? How we can position ourselves proactively as musicians, as organizations, to do right and be better in whatever context will be, right? Will come. And I'm not sure I have all the answers to that, but I certainly know that while technology is part of the answer, I think it's the way we use the technology and how we envision what the role of our own selves as musicians, but also what the role of music will need to be in a world where people might be fearful to congregate or may want to congregate even more, but are looking for different things from us, whether our perspective should be larger and not just confined to the kind of performances that maybe we would have planned for before. I don't know, but those are the things I'm thinking about. And I do think that there is no such thing, excuse me, as a bad idea. Collectively, we are stronger. And I'm seeing this among my individual musical friends, with the other organizations that I work with. All of this cumulative spirit and energy is actually pretty inspiring to me, because people, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I think that there is a kindness and a patience and an empathy which is heightened now, because not only do we crave it, we are all craving to give it. And I think if music can be inside of that impulse, then maybe we really have something going. I think, obviously, all of the ways that, just even in our Stamford Symphony family, how everybody has reacted and come together and been so creative and so generous in proposing things and wanting to do things and trying to understand together how we can serve the next steps as best we can. I think that is pretty wild. It's pretty fantastic. So we're just going to try to, we're going to get this first project going. I hope The Amazing Grace comes out as well as I think it will. Thank goodness for Tony, who is our resident genius. But I think that we should invent more things to do and more ways to stay connected and more reasons to believe that we can make music not only for ourselves and with ourselves, but for the community. Maybe even more essential than it was before. I think people are craving something else. And I don't know how you guys feel, but the lockdown thing, it's so important. We have to do it, but man, it's getting a little old. I mean, everybody's itching to get outside, and you can't, and you shouldn't, and we won't. Yep. So those are just my initial thoughts. I'm so happy to see all of you, and I hope you are all healthy and doing some of the things that maybe you thought you never had time to. I will say, I always said before, wow, if I only had 2 weeks of really nothing to do, no travel, no concerts, I'd get the house fixed up exactly right. I would do this project that I've been putting off. And now I realize that having the 2 weeks, that wasn't the reason I didn't do it. So I'm working on that. The time management thing is a little fluid.
Yeah, I hear you. If there's a silver lining in this huge, great storm cloud we have over us right now, it's something that actually should not have surprised us, but it is the most extraordinary way the members of the orchestra, the members of the Stamford Symphony have come on board so wonderfully, so quickly, so generously in offering their time and their art to us, particularly through the Stamford Symphony channel. And I'd love Peter Weitzner, who is chairman of the Players Committee and a bass player in the orchestra, who's with us, just to say a word on behalf of many of the musicians I see on screen. And it's wonderful that you've joined us. And honestly, from all of us, thank you so much for what you're posting and what you're letting us post. And I know the work that's going on behind the scenes, which we will unveil later in the week. Those wonderful things are happening now. Peter, how are you? How are things?
Things are a little crazy here. I don't know where to begin, but I thank Michael for all his opening statements. It covers pretty much what I'm thinking of how do we go forward? Will people actually want to congregate once again? How long will that take for them to start to amass to a large audience or sit next to each other in public? And how close can the musicians get to each other is another question. But I do think that eventually we will be called upon. I think, you know, the Barber Adagio is always called upon after events like this, and that's when people really oh, we don't need music until there's a tragedy, and then we are called upon for something like that, and it's our service, and we love to do it, and we're grateful for that opportunity. But it's, as a bass player, you know, I much prefer playing with other people than playing with myself, and a little tired of practicing by myself, but it's been a great opportunity for me to actually get back to my basics. And I start with open strings every day, and I do a lot of long tones, and it's that kind of opportunity doesn't come very often, when you can actually regroup and, you know, start over again. And so I'm grateful for that, but sure would like to play with my friends again. And
We can't wait. Absolutely.
yeah. And I'm grateful for the orchestra for
you,
what it's
Peter.
been doing, the channel, and reaching out to our audience. I've had some wonderful conversations with patrons and subscribers the last week, and I hope to continue doing that over the next few weeks. And I know they are all excited to meet with us in the fall, at least, if not earlier. And we do have a wonderful relationship that I hope we can get back to beyond the virtual life and back to our real tactile life once again. So, and I thank Russell for all you do behind the scenes. It's been an incredible time. So, working on other projects as well, though. I'm doing some audio projects and trying to maintain some sense of being in the real world. So I think that's it for me right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. We'll come back to you. So just a few facts, and my colleague Meredith Towers is online. Give us a wave, Meredith. Hi. Obviously, the office is closed, but the number is working. We are checking the main line all the time. Our emails are working. My cell is in my signature, and we are communicating. We're checking the mail. The operation is running amazingly efficiently. Last week, we sent out another large mailing to people to remind people to renew their subscriptions, and they are, which is very, very encouraging. But we are working remotely, and very few of us are going into the office, very, very rarely, only when absolutely necessary. But the usual channels of communication are working, and people are using them, and that's fantastic. Obviously, as you know, we have postponed the March, April, and May concerts. It's just impossible to know at this stage how that may be resolved, and what might be possible later in the summer. There's just no concrete news on that at the moment, but we would hope that something might be possible before the start of next season. And obviously, as soon as we can know something, we will tell you. The channel is perhaps the number one thing that we've done, the Stamford Symphony channel, which has received TV coverage, front page coverage in the Advocate. Classic FM in the UK listed it as one of only, I think, about 4 orchestras in the States with this sort of resource. I think it's fairly unique for an orchestra our size, and particularly want to thank the Genium Foundation and basically from conception to delivery was about 10 days. And as I say, the best material on the channel is for members of the orchestra. And we don't know how long this lockdown is going to last. So we have a lot more material in the can than we're putting up, because we want to keep fresh material coming out at least 2 to 3 times a week. So I thank all the members of the orchestra who have donated material. If you haven't seen it up there yet, don't worry, we will use it. It will be shared with our audience. And we know that people are hitting our website in big numbers, and we're getting coverage all over the region. And it's working, and we're getting great feedback. Please let us know, and we can talk about this when we unmute you all in a second. Please let us know what else we could put on the channel. Let us have some feedback about what you're enjoying and what else you would like to see, because it's pretty flexible. Music is fundamental. There are more and more talks coming out. I think I've done 3 virtual sofa interviews now with members of the orchestra. There'll be more. They're a lot of fun to do, and the orchestra are just wonderful to talk to them in a totally 3-dimensional way about the rest of their lives. And a lot of resources up there, particularly for kids. And I see Janie Choi online as well. Janie is putting more and more things up for the kids and the grandkids while they're at home right now, which has to be a challenge. And members of the orchestra are recording their own demonstrations of instruments, particularly for the kids. And they'll be going up regularly as we get them done. So I think that's what we have to share at the moment, and we'd all love to hear what you're thinking. And if you have any questions for any of us, I should finally just say that the chairman of the board, Alan McIntyre, was desperately wanting to be on this call. I think you know many of him, that he works for Accenture. He is the head of global banking for Accenture. He's slightly busy at the moment, dealing with governments and banks in trying to get some of the financial stimulus packages going and so on, which even as a small organization like the Stamford Symphony, we've applied for in the last week for loans and payroll forgiveness and so on. So Alan is up to his eyes on several continents this week, trying to get the banking sector in order to deliver these things for governments. So he'll check in with us in due course. So over to you, please. Let's unmute Tony, and let's. I don't think there's too many people on the call, and let's take some comments and questions, please.
So Russell, yeah. I do have the first question that's come through from the chat feature. Mr. Whitby would. Oh, Michael was just starting to type some comments for him too. But the question for you and Michael is whether there is any possibility to organize a Zoom delivered concert. You know, we have seen other groups doing this, some choirs and orchestras. So that's the question on the table that Michael started to answer.
Well, I just typed to answer Robert's question. We are open to trying anything, and Tony would have to spearhead the technology. I can imagine lots of logistical challenges, but nothing is necessarily undoable. Look, I think we should probably take Mahler 6 off the table if we were going to try that, especially the first time. But it's possible. I think, well, first of all, let me address the idea of putting up video content, generally speaking. I'm sure you all saw the Rotterdam Phil Beethoven 9. Since then, everybody and his uncle have put up orchestral. I mean, the smaller ensembles and the individual stuff and the stuff on Instagram and Twitter, all of that is great. And that's a very personal statement from one or a very small number of people on their personal channels. Organizationally, when you put something together like that, I am increasingly thinking, and I'm absolutely happy to have everyone disagree with me, that if it's not really distinctive and good at this point, we should probably avoid it, because they're all starting to run into one another a little bit and sound not copycatish, but sound the same. And some of them were incredibly well done. I don't know if you guys saw the Carnival of the Animals thing that Gauthier and Renaud Capuçon put together with a whole bunch of people, with the Labec sisters, with Yo-Yo Ma, with all sorts of people. That was cute. Not an orchestra, but a pretty big ensemble. That was adorable. I think some of the other things, just musically and visually, are not particularly compelling. So what I'm hoping is that Our Amazing Grace, because we've got a click track that is about as rubato as a click track can be, thanks to Tony again, who is kind of amazing me on different levels every single time we have an interaction. I think it's going to sound like a performance. So if, to answer Robert's question, we were to do a Zoom concert, if it doesn't really sound like we're coming together and we could make it, we could sell it, it doesn't show us in the best light. If we could pull it off, it would be great. Choirs are easier, right? Choirs are easier than instrumental groups for all sorts of timbre and pitch reasons. But the other thing is, everybody has to have the same level of technology. So if we're doing a Zoom, I mean, I'm new to Zoom and slightly worried that even this call is being streamed directly to either the KGB or, you know, some central Chinese government office. But assuming that we get the technology worked out, I mean, I'm open to trying anything. And I think if this really drags on 8, 12 weeks and we're still in limbo, you know, I think we would all agree that anything we could do to connect musically would be worth trying. I think this is a question for Tony, actually, as much as anybody else. Tony, do you think a Zoom concert I mean, I'm assuming Robert is asking if it's possible to do it live, right, in real time?
Yes, I can answer that. Unfortunately, the internet does not allow for that because of the delay. If we all tried to sing a song together right now, it would not sound good because you would hear my voice almost a second after I made a sound, and then, you know, someone else would hear it a second later. The delay is substantial. So it's not possible to do live performance over the internet.
Are you, Tony, are you shortchanging the musicians of the Stamford Symphony? The Philadelphia Orchestra for about 70 years played a full 8th note later than the beat. So
I can speak from personal experience of a kid's birthday party on Zoom when everyone tried to sing Happy Birthday together, and it was quite messy. But
I did that with my father this morning. He's 83 today, and it was a mess. I assure you, it was a shambles. Lim Dutton, I see your hand up. You have a comment to make.
Yes. Well, first off, you know, bravo on the channel. I haven't seen that anywhere else, and I think it's wonderful. And Michael, thank you for what you have recorded. What you said was wonderful, and I think powerful. And Russell, happy birthday to your dad today. Couple of things. I noticed, you know, you had a lot of video recordings, which obviously a lot of us have, but we may have been a little bit, you know, reticent about putting them out, gathering it, putting it out there in terms of just everybody's been pretty busy just trying to, you know, get used to this new normal, especially if we have other family members that need taken care of. But also, are you interested in any audio recordings? Because most of us have, you know, some wonderful recordings that we could put onto the channel. And then I don't want to take up too much time, but another thing I had a thought of was 2 things. One, because Peter mentioned about the Barber Adagio. Well, over the summer, before we do get back to, hopefully, back to normal, could the musicians donate their services if at a certain point testing comes into play, people know that people take the testing and they know that they're negative, they could donate their services for family members, and it could just be on a totally voluntary basis, whoever, because I know that so far I have things through June that are canceled, so I'm not working, you know, at Stanford or anywhere else, and so I have time. and I could donate my services for anybody in the Stamford Symphony family. If they end up having some kind of services where people are tested and they're negative and they can donate their services and it's safe, that we can donate our services during that period. And then also, Wu Han and David Finkel at Chamber Music Society have compiled a CD for playing to patients in hospitals, the ones on ventilators. And, you know, is there something we could do? Because I know when I had a friend from Steve Reich Musicians that was dying, and I took Music for 18, which we recorded together, to him in the hospital, that made me feel better, knowing that he was hearing that. And I think if there could be some way that we had something that we could offer, possibly through the Stamford Hospital, to people who are on ventilators, and then also maybe if it's a CD or an MP3 file that gets distributed, provide that for the families at home, so they could at least be together with their loved one musically. I don't know, these are just ideas, but.
They're all great ideas, Liz, thanks so much. And the quick answer to your first point is yes, just audio clips are absolutely perfect for the channel. They don't have to be videos. Audio clips are perfect, and we have some in the can. So yes, please.
Well, some of the audios are big recordings, though. I mean, would that take up too much space on the channel?
No, because they actually live on YouTube, and the channel is just a link to
Okay.
to bigger platforms.
All right.
So we can hide them on YouTube, and they're Jenny had a point about following on from Robert's point about virtual concerts. Janie, are you there?
Sorry, I'm a little slow on the unmuting. Yeah, somebody was mentioning doing concerts, and I, you know, was really appreciating what Michael was saying about if it's not going to be the top level, because we are, you know, there is so much amazing video concert footage that's been processed and professionally developed and everything, and we don't want to put out a product that's going to be, you know, consciously or unconsciously compared to these well-produced videos. But something that I thought would be a great idea, and something that I've done when I was working for the Philharmonic, was that we would do these Zoom sessions where it was sort of a concert. It was a cross between a performance and sort of a pre-concert lecture. And I thought if we modeled it in the sort of casual setting, like we've done the on tap concerts, where, you know, people dial in and it's, you know, happy hour, everyone shows up with a drink in hand. The first idea that we were going to work with was Caroline Stinson posted some great concert footage of her playing the Haydn Concerto. And I thought, just to help direct people towards the recording, if we had a 45-minute class where people could interview her, ask questions, I could interview her, we could talk about the piece, we could talk about her viewpoint as a performer, so people have a more personalized way into the recording. And it's a way that we get both the high quality of the concert footage that they would then get to follow up the class with, but also feel like they had a personal connection with the performer and have a better understanding of the music.
Okay, I think we're going to work on that and check the channel out, because we'll get that posted when we can. I think it's a great idea. And those Symphony on Tap concerts that we've done at the Half Full Brewery have been very, very popular. They've all sold out, and they're easy to do. So looking forward to that.
Russell?
Yeah, Meredith.
Keith also had some ideas about the platforms. He's looking into some other platforms outside of Zoom. You know, I think as everyone is starting to pursue lots of different opportunities of how to do what they do in a virtual way, there will be lots of other opportunities. So Keith, do you want to jump on and give us a sense of what you were thinking?
Hi, Keith.
I unmuted you so you can talk.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, hi, Keith.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey. Yeah, I've been working for the last 3 weeks on a show with Stanford Innovation Week. And the first two we did like this, and we also used a tool to allow people to submit questions and rate the different things we were talking about and provide feedback and be more interactive. and Zoom, because of the security and just it's really built for, I think, smaller groups to be interactive. And once you get over 10, 12 people, it makes it sort of hard to herd all the cats. We've been looking for another platform, and I just sent it over to Tony, who had PM'd me, private messaged me. But I really approach it from a sort of a writer-producer point of view. You know, you want to develop content even in this live format, that trying to use and adopt the language of putting on a show, you know, starting with the show must go on. And so I'm happy to share more of what we're learning. But I think what you're doing here with this kind of conversation, if we could combine it with pre-recorded videos that are, you know, safe to produce. I've seen a number of things where people use, you know, more high-end kind of microphones to record things, and then somebody edits them together. So it would require a little bit of post-production, but if you could mix something that we create with this kind of discussion, it might be a sort of a campfire to help people gather around. So I really applaud what you're doing, and I'm happy to share what I'm learning. We're all making, as you said, Michael, we're all in this together and we're all making it up. I think we go along. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith. That's great. We will certainly talk to you some more. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments, tips, advice? 3 weeks in now, it's hard to believe.
Looks like Julie Forrester has something to say. I just unmuted you, Julie.
I just,
Hi, Julie.
hi. I love the channel that's been on, and I have all my friends watching it, and I have my family in Boston are going in on it. So it's spreading a lot. But I'm going to take you back to the concerts. It would be wonderful if the Behind the Baton could be recorded in advance, maybe during the rehearsals at some point along that point, and be released so that everybody who's at all interested can see it. A lot of people can't go to Behind the Baton just because of the timing of everything. And I think that would be kind of helpful for the whole programs going forward. But I also think for the kids, this might be a terrific opportunity to do, they could be one-on-one, one performer with 2 kids, 3 kids, a small group from the schools, and some of the more advanced kids, so we're looking maybe at high school or really good middle schools, that there is video content on them producing with the symphony or performing, not with the symphony, but with a symphony member doing something with them. And that goes on to that website, onto that channel. I think if we can connect into families and we can connect into people who want to come to the concerts, maybe can't always get there, but want to learn something, or those are 2 avenues I think we could probably get into fairly easily, especially not knowing what's coming in September.
Michael, do you want to respond to the Behind the Baton point, whether we could record those in advance? I mean, you do them, so I know there are some orchestras that put out things before concerts.
I think it's a great idea. And I actually, this is kind of in the direction of what I tried to say at the very beginning. This is something we haven't done before, regardless of what we're grappling with now in terms of the crisis. Maybe this should have been an idea done 10 years ago, but we didn't have the technology. The idea of getting out in front of the communication between us and the people for whom we're making music, more and more without impediment, should really be the focus, without impediment of technology or of access. So, you know, the point that some people just can't come to the hall early simply because of the timing and the schedule, but also maybe any idea that had before an impediment of cost or an impediment of complexity, right? There's a way of doing it, behind the baton, or whatever you want to call it, and explaining not only the music that we play, but demystifying what we are doing in a way which makes it either more engaging or more off-putting. So if we can, the more accessible and open and direct we can be in real time, the better it is. I think getting content out to the audiences before the concerts is a great idea.
Can I add
Right.
on to that,
Jamie.
though, that I do think that, I mean, while the idea of the pre-recorded video, I think it's great. I think we should do it. But I also think that being there to see it in person and maybe having it be somewhat interactive, you know, so Michael, if you're on the stage and you're speaking and, you know, you might throw a question out to the audience and the way that they respond is going to affect what you're saying. I think what I'm noticing is there's so many links to click through on all the various sites. And something that I was thinking for the educational component was I was looking for things that were actually interactive. So it wasn't just, I mean, for me thinking about, oh, my kids are just going to be watching videos all day if they're just clicking through. But here's a website where they can play along with musical concepts or where their input affects what's coming back out on the screen. And I think the interactivity might be something that we could really focus on going forward, not just posting things up for people to see and listen to, but things that they can interact with.
So let me address that for a second. I agree with you. We have to cut through the noise. That's also what I was saying about not putting out another video just because, you know, Toronto did one and the New York Phil did one and Rotterdam did one, therefore we have to do one. We should do something which is specific to the message we want to give, and we should do it really in a way which is really well done. But there's just so much of it right now, and everybody and his uncle is putting out stuff on the internet, and I'm not a social media person. I can only imagine if you're on all the other platforms all at once, the barrage of stuff that you're getting. So if we were to tie, let's just stick for a moment with the behind the baton idea. If we were to tie whatever links they were specifically to an upcoming performance, and then rather than put the behind the baton on one link that would be 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it was, and me going on and on, again, Tony would have to help us to compartmentalize the answers on video. But what if somebody would come up with a way, or I would do it, I would say, all right, I'm gonna anticipate 20 questions that people might ask. Let's just say in an ideal world, we had a great response from the audience. 20 people had questions in behind the baton. I would anticipate those questions, and then rather than have one link, the one link that you would have for that concert would bring up a list. What would you like to know about this program? And each of those links would be a question, and the very short blurb, video blurb of answering would be unique to that question. That could be, it's not really interactive because I'm telling them the questions that they're going to want to ask, but I'm not sure how else you could do it. The only other way to do it is for me to set up a time, and this is really not to set up a time where people would get online and have a back and forth with me about the upcoming concert. Maybe we could try that, you know? Come and have a cocktail with me on Friday night at 5 o'clock and talk about tomorrow night's and Sunday afternoon's concert for 45 minutes, maybe. Depends how good the cocktails are. That was a joke, guys. Yeah. Okay.
We have everyone muted, so you can't hear them laughing.
Yeah. We should.
We're all rolling on the floor.
They're laughing on the inside. They're laughing on the inside.
I certainly think the quote I've heard so often the last few weeks is necessity is the mother of invention. And we have certainly had to be inventive in the last few weeks. And I think some things will not go back to where they were, and that will be a good thing in some ways. And very simple things like recording behind the baton, which we can put on the website the next morning, allows people to catch up with what was said at their leisure in the days that followed. I'm sure everybody doesn't read every program note religiously before the start of the concert. I don't. I often read it on the subway home or the train home or whatever. So timing doesn't matter here, but I think having access to the resource is important. And I think those sorts of things will be very different in the future. Any other comments, thoughts, points, sharings?
I will say something here. I think that anything that can increase the directness between the orchestra or the conductor and the listener is positive. And if there have to be intermediary explanatory devices, they should be before or after whatever the performance is. But the more you can have a direct correlation between the performance or the performer and the listener, to me, that's a positive.
Are you saying that in terms of technology or in real time at the concert?
Real time at the concert or through a non-concert venue like a video or Zoom, that kind of thing. Because for many people, going to a concert hall is a big event and not something akin to, for example, going to a movie house. So if you can give the people who normally would not go to a concert, but give them the same kind of audience reaction that they could get on their home screen or through Zoom, then that which they could get at the concert, to me, is a positive. It essentially increases the audience to a symphony or to a conductor or a performer. And I like that.
We get very good feedback from our research about on-stage talks, and we do encourage it. And I was just so sorry we lost the March concert, because we had Hannah Lash from Yale lined up to come and talk about her work that we were going to start the concert with. And we know from when we do our surveys each season that you, the audience, absolutely like that, and almost can't get too much of the introductions to the works and so on. So, and we're very lucky that Michael does that rather brilliantly. So we will, I hope, if he's happy, we'll continue to do that, because I know that is popular with the audience.
That's good.
I think that's one of the main reasons, well, that's one of the big reasons why the On Tap events were so popular, because people really enjoy the banter of the performers. Yep. And learning more about not just the music, but, you know, the stories behind the music and behind the musicians.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I think the interviews I'm having so much fun doing with members of the orchestra on my virtual sofa are going to be fun, because the audience are going to meet members of the orchestra in 3 dimensions, not just from a distance during a concert in a more 1 or 2 dimensional way, with 65, 70 of their colleagues. And I know our audience love that, and I know the orchestra like to reach out, and many of you have got to know the audience very, very well over the years, and that's fantastic. That's how it should be. Any members of the orchestra want to chip in and say something about what's going on in their lives right now, and how frustrating it is not to be able to play? Anybody? Casey, what's going on with you?
Okay,
Casey.
I had to unmute myself, sorry.
Yeah.
I am probably one of the luckiest of all of us, because first of all, I live in California. So I don't know if you all know that I fly out to play in Stamford, which is something really important to me. Before I took this job out here, that was one of the rules, was that they had to let me go whenever I wanted to come out to perform. But I'm one of the really lucky ones, because I still have my teaching work. So there's a tiny bit of envy for me for not having all of the free time that you all have. You know, but like what Michael said, you know, I probably wouldn't do any of the projects that I would like to do, but I'm kind of missing the idea that I have free time. I'm doing all of my teaching online, which is really challenging. But you know, it's fine, and I'm making a living, and one of the venues that I teach at has decided that they would pay us even if we couldn't teach through the middle of April, which is really nice. And then if we continue to teach all the way through the term, we'll get paid for whatever we teach. So that I'm just really lucky. I'm trying to figure out ways to get the kids playing more together, virtual group classes. One of the things I do is a Suzuki teacher, and so I'm trying to do virtual classes with the kids. They like seeing each other. They're all excited and happy to be seeing each other. This past week was our 3rd week on lockdown, and the kids and the parents are so stressed out. I'm hoping that we will turn the corner this next week on the 4th week, and this will be our new normal, and everybody will be kind of used to it. So it's interesting. I mean, unfortunately, they've closed all the state parks, or all this, you know, all the city places where you can go to play tennis, or, you know, anything just to get out, even though you're kind of sheltering together in place. The lack of physical activity is really hard on a lot of people. And then the other thing is there's so much content online that I don't have time to look at it all. And I wish I had more hours in the day, but I need to sleep a lot in order to maintain my sanity. And it's all, yeah, I would like to do cocktail symposium stuff, Michael. I think that would be really fun. Unfortunately, I'm always teaching when you guys are having cocktail hours, because that's my teaching time, since I'm 3 hours different. So anyway, that's my life. I'm doing okay. So far, so good. Some of this feels a little bit like during the AIDS crisis, where we were watching our dear friends with AIDS pass away, and so trying to keep my spirits up and keep playing and all of that. So thank you so much, you guys, for doing this. Thank you, Russell, a million bazillion thanks for everything that you're doing, for Michael, for your inspiring emails and messages to us and what you're saying, and for Tony for your, you know, incredible tech savvy stuff. I don't know anything about tech. Don't know what I'm doing at all. So any help anybody can give me, it's great. All right, that's my side.
Thanks, Tracy.
So Russell, the cocktail symposium idea, we got a comment from Elizabeth Rubin, kind of coming off of what Janie was saying in the Behind the Baton discussion about what about choosing one of the pieces that we have on the channel and then inviting people to join Michael to have a drink and discuss it, so that everyone is listening to something from the channel, and then we host something like this where everyone can come on board and have an informal chat about the piece. So
with a cocktail.
With a cocktail. Liz, did you want to comment on that any further?
I think I'm unmuted, yes. No, it's just what you're saying. It could be, I do this now with my friends. Let's have a drink tonight at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Sits in front of her phone and I sit in front of my phone and we have a drink. And so it would be something along those lines that you would schedule.
So I'll respond, because I already responded in writing. I think the idea of doing that with a drink is a great idea. I think the idea of not doing that, but having a drink with people is a great idea. And to KC, I would say, especially given some of the lessons that I used to have when I was, you know, starting in Juilliard pre-college and onward, if the teacher has a drink, somehow that works too. So if you feel like you need to start drinking 3 hours earlier than we, by all means. I think, no, not to get too boozy. I think the idea, so the reason this is appealing to me is because it is basically underlining some of the things that we had wanted to do or even were doing before, using this time to create a new way of imagining it and actually deepening the experience. So you just imagine, we play Beethoven 7, right? Or next year we're going to play Brahms 2 or Sibelius or pictures, right? There could be people who specifically have questions about that. Wouldn't it be, and not just from me, wouldn't it be interesting if somebody said, you know, we're playing Brahms 4. Liz, what's with that flute solo, right? I mean, what's going on there? And you know, not to get too technical, but to really get some inside baseball about what goes through your head, how you prepare, what the challenges are, how to make it more beautiful, all of that stuff, guaranteed, that person will come to the performance and listen to the piece differently. So it doesn't have to be that technical, but that kind of idea and making it social. And I think what that really points to is the larger framework for this entire discussion today, and for everything that I've tried to say, first of all, to myself and to anybody else, without getting too Pollyannish about it. There has to be some way to use all of these challenges as opportunities for a different way of thinking. Not just, oh, there's a silver lining, or even necessity is the mother of invention, because that means you have to find another way to make this work, even though you don't have the context or the tools that you used to do it. That's old thinking. The new thinking should be, here's an opportunity actually to address the issue. We want communication with the audience. We want to demystify what we do. We want to be able to connect to a larger audience. Whatever it is, here's an opportunity for us to imagine, given the social distancing, and how are we going to do that? And I think if we start to think more and more with those parameters, an unbelievable number of new ideas are going to start flowing.
And, hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, the thing that we all need the most right now is more social connection. And so you put your needs and our needs together, and there's something in that intersection. Because that's why as many people joined this chat, I think. People just need that connection right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Liz, you've got your hand up. Liz Mann. Hi.
I do. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see all your faces. And yes, Michael, I would be happy to talk about the Brahms 4 flute solo, one of my favorite things to play, anytime. I feel like I've been a little late to the game. This is sort of one of my first things where I'm joining in because, like Michael, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, which is I'm just not going to sit there posting things willy-nilly. I would really want to, for me personally, feel authentic about and feel good about what I'm posting. And also, it's taken a while for me to just be able to get out in the world. And I have a teaching job, but it's just started, so I don't have a lot of students. And I've watched my work all go away from April, May, now June was canceled, now July was canceled, and sort of been in shock. I've just been in shock, like many of us, and saddened, already losing a couple of people. And I really appreciate, Russell, how proactive, and Michael and all of you have been. And I'm just saying I'm glad to be here today, and hoping that moving forward, it's, as you said, not necessarily silver linings, but it's like there's things that we have to appreciate about what we have, what we're going to have going forward. In the midst of a lot of sadness and loss and grief through what we're going. So I'm happy to be here. I'm open to ideas. I like the idea of communicating somehow to our audience members and to each other. And I think that going forward, oh, nice cat tail I see. My dog was here a minute ago. And just to see going forward, as long as I can take a breath, which is important for flute playing, that maybe there are some silver linings that will keep going forward into the future. So just happy to see you all today.
And just while you're mentioning connection there, particularly want to thank the board members I see online here and the members of the orchestra. Between you, I think 20 members of the orchestra, 5, 6, 7 members of the board, last week were making 15 calls each to, some of you may have received some, to subscribers and donors, just to stay in touch, to hear from us. We've all been doing them, and thank you for doing them, but I think you'd be the first to say they've been rewarding, and I know people who've been receiving the calls have given us great feedback to say how wonderful it's been to hear from the orchestra, to hear from the institution. I was on a call with my opposite numbers for orchestras in New York and further afield last week, and nobody's doing that quite in the way the Stamford Symphony is, and the channel is pretty unique as well. The British Classic FM radio station has us listed as one of the resources to go to. I think only 3 other American orchestras are listed, and clearly we're getting some traction, and it's the right thing to do. And we are a Fairfield County Stamford family, and it's not surprising, but it's rewarding to see that everybody has stepped up and is doing this so enthusiastically, and people are so pleased to hear from us. And it absolutely underlines what we are as an institution, and why I'm very confident, and Michael, you might want a last word on this, why I'm absolutely confident that when we're back, because we will be back, it may be September, October, November, we don't know, but we will have a season, and we will have the incredible rewards of staying together, staying as a family, and that reunion that we're going to have in the fall is going to be quite amazing. I can't wait for it. And Michael's put together this extraordinary season next year, and we can't wait, Michael. Can't wait.
You know, Russell, it's easy to get down. All of us have, I think, grappled with moments where, like Liz said, it's kind of overwhelming. And anybody who's worried about work or income, I totally get it. I mean, I also have everything canceled. I think through the summer. But we have to sort of rise above that somehow. It's easy to say, it's going to be challenging to do, but we're going to do it. And I find myself relying on Russell, I have to say, to veer me back towards optimism. Oh no, it's going to be fine. He's got the, yeah, I'll say definitely the Charles and not the Harry approach to the duties of the royal family. And so I think it's kind of inspiring, and I wrote this actually, starting with Russell, but everybody who's on the team, and just the way, and I meant this at the beginning too, I think the way we approach each other and among the larger group, one another, with this understanding that we need at this moment, yes, to take a breath, but a little kindness and empathy and the creativity and the caring, all of that is just one impulse. And yes, we are going to have a season, and yes, I will be there for that reunion with bells on. And I think, and I'll just say this explicitly, I think our music making is going to be more fervent and more deeply felt and more urgent even than before, because when you are threatened with having something taken away, you realize how important it is, and you don't want to let go of it anymore. And that's a big deal. So I'm grateful that we can, if we're gonna do this, damn it, it's good that we can do it together.
Okay, folks, it's nearly 4 o'clock. I have to go and catch up on the Queen's broadcast, which is happened about an hour ago. I have to go and see that. Please do us a favor. please share the channel with everybody. Put it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Hotmail. Please let friends and families know about the channel. That really, really helps. Please renew your subscription if you haven't, and I suspect most of you on this call have done. That's a real way of helping right now. And please give us feedback. Go onto Facebook, tell us about it, email us in the office, email me, rjones@stanfordsymphony.org. Just please give us feedback, because we will need it, we use it. It's great to hear. We're guessing what we think works, but it's much better if you tell us. And particularly, let us know if you want to do this again, and if you think this has been a success and we should do this every 2 weeks or whatever, at whatever time. I think when the word gets out that this went as well as I think it did, we'll have more people next time. And please keep the communication going and stay in touch. Michael, Peter, board members, musicians, donors, subscribers, bless you, thank you, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks so much. Everyone take care, be safe.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Maybe with drinks in hand next time, right?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Okay, we get off of here.